The movie opened in 1931 as a man named Papillon broke into a safe to steal diamonds. After securing the jewels, he climbed out of a window and navigated the busy streets of Paris to a club. There, he presented the diamonds to the boss of the French mafia. The boss was pleased with the acquisition but issued a stern warning that if Papillon ever betrayed him, he would be promptly dealt with. Shortly after, Papillon met the love of his life, Nanette. He gave her a necklace that he had also stolen from the safe, but had kept for himself. He further revealed to her that he had secreted away some of the diamonds for his own use, a secret witnessed by a man from the mafia. The couple spent the evening drinking and enjoying romantic company, but their happiness was short-lived. The next morning, detectives arrived and arrested Papillon for the murder of a pimp who had been at the club with the mafia boss the previous night. Papillon recalled that the mafia had been beating the pimp and realized that he was being framed. He tried to assure Nanette that he would be fine because he had a perfect alibi. He had been with her all evening. Their subsequent meeting in prison was somber. Papillon revealed to Nanette that there was no use in appealing to the court, as the entire system was corrupt and he was being set up by truly powerful people. He confirmed that he had been given a life sentence. He insisted to Nanette that his sole focus was now on escaping, but since he did not know how long it might take, she needed to forget about him and move on with her life. A fellow inmate named Julot overheard the conversation and informed Papillon that any attempt to escape would require a large amount of money. Following a medical examination, Papillon and the other new inmates were informed that they were being sent to a penal colony in French Guiana. The destination was a prison infamous for its terrible conditions and a history where no inmate had ever escaped alive. Aboard the ship, heading to the colony, Julot pointed out a man named Louis Degas to Papillon. Julot explained that Degas was a highly skilled counterfeiter who had earned millions through his criminal enterprise, and therefore he was likely carrying a great deal of money. Papillon approached Degas and immediately made him an offer. Papillon stated that Degas was in considerable danger because everyone on the ship wanted his money. He offered to provide protection in exchange for Degas funding his escape attempt. Degas initially refused the proposal, believing he was safe as long as the guards were present. However, that night, an inmate brutally murdered the man sleeping next to Degas, slashing him open to extract hidden money. Degas realized that the guards were indifferent to the inmates killing one another, leading him to accept Papillon's deal the next morning. Degas promised to give Papillon all the money he needed if he protected him until he was safely situated at the prison. Papillon made it clear that he intended to escape alone, and Degas agreed, stating that he expected to be released soon anyway, as his appeal was being processed in court. The following night, an inmate approached Degas with a knife. Papillon quickly spotted the threat and intervened, attacking the assailant. A brutal brawl ensued, creating several minutes of chaos before the guards finally decided to step in. After inspecting the inmate's fists, the guards discovered that Papillon had been among the fighters. His punishment was severe. He was tied up in a position that rendered him completely immobile. The next morning, the ship finally arrived at the island where the penal colony was situated. During the transfer, Julot, who had managed to steal a knife the previous night, quickly used it to cut his own knee so that he would be sent to the infirmary. Upon disembarking, the rest of the inmates were addressed by the chief warden. The warden stated that he was fully aware they were contemplating escape. He issued a grim warning, cautioning that even if they managed to avoid the guards' bullets, they would only face a vast, shark-infested sea. He further laid out the penalties for escape attempts: 2 years of solitary confinement for the first offense, and 5 years of solitary confinement followed by a life sentence at Devil's Island, described as a complete and utter hellhole, for the second attempt. As life in the main prison began, Papillon immediately set about making strategic connections. He found the man responsible for assigning duties and requested that both he and Degas be stationed at the infirmary. Degas attempted to participate in the exchange, but since he came from high society, his polite mannerisms and conversational style were poorly received in the prison environment. The man quoted a price of $1,000 for the preferred assignments. Papillon, finding the price steep, successfully negotiated the inclusion of cigarettes, while Degas added a request for a notebook, claiming to be an artist. The following day, news circulated among the inmates that someone had escaped from the infirmary. Papillon immediately suspected Julot and felt a surge of hope, recognizing that escape from the notorious prison was not, in fact, impossible. However, just as Papillon and Degas were about to be assigned to the infirmary, the deputy warden intervened. The deputy warden recognized Degas and revealed that Degas' counterfeit bonds had led to the arrest of his own son-in-law. Seeking revenge, he spitefully assigned both Degas and Papillon to the grueling work in the mines. During a break from their arduous labor, Degas was seen sketching a drawing of his wife. He confidently shared with Papillon that he believed his wife would successfully push his appeal through court and secure his release. Papillon expressed skepticism, noting that since his wife now possessed all of Degas' money, she was free to do whatever she pleased, making it highly unlikely she would expend the funds trying to secure his freedom. The threat to Degas' hidden wealth soon materialized in another way. One day, while pushing a cart, Degas confessed to Papillon that he had suffered a bout of diarrhea, causing his carefully hidden money, which he kept concealed internally, to fall out. Papillon reacted instantly, halting the cart and managing to find and retrieve the money before the guards became aware of the incident. During another break, Papillon met a man named Cellier, a former Navy man like himself, before turning to crime. Cellier proposed that if Papillon could engineer an escape plan, he would arrange for his contacts on the outside to deliver a boat to them for leaving the island. Later, on the way back to the prison, the guards gave a lift to a local pimp who regularly brought women to the island. Papillon seized the chance and offered the pimp a reward of $2,000 to secure a boat for their escape. The pimp countered by demanding $5,000 and warned that he would only be on the island for the next 3 weeks. Back inside the prison walls, a few more inmates attempted to attack Degas. Papillon once again defended him, and during the vicious fight, he bit off a piece of one inmate's ear. Afterward, Papillon, deeply frustrated by the need to repeatedly risk his life because Degas was such an easy target, yelled at him when Degas tried to speak. Papillon reminded Degas that protecting him was ultimately the job he had signed up for. That night, Degas informed Papillon that he wished to join the escape, admitting that he doubted he would survive until his appeal was processed. Papillon, however, refused the request, believing Degas was too delicate and would pose a liability to the plan. Soon after, all the inmates were gathered to witness an execution. Julot was brought before them, having failed his escape attempt and killed a guard in the process. He was subsequently decapitated with a guillotine. Papillon and Degas were then forced to carry Julot's body to the jungle. The sight of blood leaking from the severed neck caused Degas to have a complete breakdown, leaving him immobile. When a guard began whipping Degas, Papillon seized the moment, attacked the guard from behind, and knocked him unconscious. Papillon immediately made a run for it, successfully evading the pursuing guards. Degas was taken back to the prison. That night, Papillon arrived at the pimp's house expecting to board a boat, but the pimp betrayed him. Papillon was quickly surrounded by several armed men. The pimp justified his betrayal by revealing that no matter what reward Papillon offered, the chief warden would always offer double the amount for returning an escaped prisoner. Papillon was returned to the prison, where the warden informed him that he would spend the next 2 years in solitary confinement on a different island. The warden chillingly explained that the purpose of solitary was specifically to break an inmate's mind and strip them of all hope. Inside the solitary cell, Papillon learned of the strict rule demanding complete and utter silence at all times. While struggling to maintain his sanity under these conditions, the specific guard Papillon had knocked out arrived and took the opportunity to beat him. One day, Papillon found a coconut floating in his drinking water, accompanied by a note promising one delivery every day. He realized this gesture of support must have come from Degas, who likely paid a guard, and the hope it provided motivated him to begin working out to maintain his physical and mental health. However, a guard soon discovered the coconut during an inspection and reported it to the warden. The warden demanded that Papillon reveal his supplier, but Papillon refused to betray Degas. As immediate punishment, the warden halved his food rations. After several months of surviving on half rations, Papillon began showing obvious signs of malnutrition. When the warden eventually returned, he offered Papillon a substantial meal in exchange for the name of his supplier. Papillon demonstrated his non-compliance by humiliatingly feeding the meal directly to the warden. In furious retaliation, the warden ordered that Papillon be kept in complete darkness for the remainder of his time in solitary. While in the darkness, Papillon retreated into his happy memories, but these memories soon began to intertwine with hallucinations. Degas appeared to him as a mime, and Papillon hallucinated a safe in the cell wall, which he tried and failed to crack open as he had done in Paris. Eventually, the safe opened by itself, which symbolized a new breakthrough or revelation within Papillon's own mind. 2 full years later, guards arrived to retrieve an unconscious Papillon and transfer him to the infirmary. It was revealed that during this period, Degas had managed to curry favor with the warden and now worked as his bookkeeper. Degas came to the infirmary, finding Papillon with a vacant, distant expression. He apologized, acknowledging that Papillon was in this sorry state because of his refusal to name him. Degas then admitted that Papillon had been right about his wife. She had betrayed him and married his lawyer. Papillon suddenly made a derogatory remark about Degas' wife and smiled. Degas was relieved and happy to learn that Papillon was actually all right and was only faking madness to remain in the infirmary. Degas asked why Papillon had refused to give his name to the warden, and Papillon explained that he knew Degas would not have survived the consequences of being revealed. Papillon added that if he ever managed to escape, he intended to lead a very different life, claiming that the experience of solitary confinement had fundamentally changed him. Degas then shared a plan. On the upcoming Sunday, local politicians would visit the prison and the warden would screen a movie for them in the yard. He suggested that with the guards focused on the guests, it would provide an ideal opportunity for them to escape. Papillon agreed, but pointed out they would need Cellier's help to secure the necessary boat. To maintain his cover, Papillon suddenly reverted to his crazy act, screaming at Degas to leave. Degas played along, calling for the guards to restrain Papillon. As the guards administered a sedative, Papillon secretly managed to conceal it. That night, Papillon overheard the infirmary guard sexually harassing a fellow inmate named Maturette. Papillon informed Maturette that he had an escape plan, which required Maturette to distract the infirmary guard on Sunday night. Maturette agreed, but given the compromising nature of the distraction, he insisted that the plan needed to succeed. In preparation, Cellier deliberately injured himself to be admitted into the infirmary and join the plot. Papillon gave Degas all the sedatives he had been concealing so that Degas could lace the drinks he would serve the guards on Sunday.
When the guards' coffee, we'll do the rest. You all right?
Sunday evening arrived, and the 4 inmates began executing their plan. Degas successfully served the guards drinks laced with the sedatives. Simultaneously, Maturette reluctantly offered the infirmary guard a private meeting in the bathroom. While the guard was distracted with Maturette, Papillon and Cellier quickly fashioned weapons from their bedposts and used them to knock the guard unconscious. The 3 escapees then snuck past the sedated guards and waited for Degas, but suddenly the plan was jeopardized when heavy rain began, forcing all the visiting politicians and remaining guards to head inside. Cellier immediately suggested that they abandon Degas and flee, but Papillon insisted they would wait for him. Degas arrived and revealed that he had stolen the keys to the watchtower. Given that the power was out due to the storm, he proposed they use the cover of darkness to escape from the tower. The group managed to reach the tower, but they were faced with a significant drop. 3 of the men jumped down gracefully, but Degas injured his foot upon landing, forcing Papillon and Maturette to carry him. They met Cellier's contact, paid the fee, boarded the boat, and finally reached the ocean, experiencing a momentary sense of freedom. Their relief quickly vanished when they discovered the boat was riddled with holes, requiring constant bailing to stay afloat. Cellier told Papillon that the boat could not handle the weight of 4 men and suggested they should dispose of Degas, citing his recent injury as a liability. Papillon ignored him, but when a storm began brewing in the distance, Cellier became increasingly insistent on the idea and produced a knife. A brawl erupted, during which Maturette was thrown overboard, and Papillon was nearly killed by Cellier. Crucially, Degas intervened, coming to Papillon's aid and stabbing Cellier repeatedly. Maturette managed to climb back onto the boat, and the 3 remaining men disposed of Cellier's body in the water. Degas then collected his drawings, which were now completely soaked. The 3 men attempted to survive the storm, but were ultimately overwhelmed and knocked unconscious. Following the storm, Papillon awoke in a hut and stepped outside, where he encountered a nun. She informed him that he was now in Colombia and revealed that she knew where he had come from. She assured him that everything would be fine, provided he repented and sought God. Papillon found Degas and told him they needed to leave, but Degas was too deeply shaken by the Cellier incident to move. Papillon resolved to leave by himself, but as he was exiting, he saw a police car approaching. He quickly rushed back to rescue Degas, but before the 2 men could escape, guards spotted them. Maturette made a final run for it, but was shot, definitively making the ultimate sacrifice for the failed plan. The men quickly learned that the nun herself had called the police, rendering her earlier talk of repentance meaningless. For his second escape attempt, Papillon was condemned to 5 years in solitary confinement. When he finally emerged from this sentence, he appeared frail, weakened, and aged, surprising the warden, who stated that no inmate had ever survived 5 years in solitary before. The warden asked what had kept him going, but Papillon offered no answer. Next, Papillon was brought to Devil's Island to live out the remainder of his life. The island's high cliffs made escape seem impossible. Papillon entered the prison and encountered inmates who had lost their minds from prolonged isolation. Among them, he was relieved to find Degas, who had been sent there 5 years earlier by the warden. Degas welcomed Papillon, showed him his dwelling, fed him, and allowed him to rest and recover. After some time, Papillon went outside to gaze at the sea. One night, he awakened Degas and informed him that he had formulated a new escape plan. He explained that the powerful waves around the island were all they needed. They simply had to build a raft, survive the initial jump, and the strong currents would carry them to the mainland. Degas helped Papillon construct the raft using coconuts. However, on the day of the escape attempt, Degas confessed that he would be staying behind on the island, saying that he now felt he belonged there while Papillon did not. Papillon accepted his friend's decision. He then threw the coconut raft into the churning water and jumped in after it. He successfully survived the fall, and as he floated away, both men let out shouts of joy and excitement. Papillon floated to freedom. The movie concluded many decades later in 1969, when a much older Papillon returned to France. He submitted his memoir of his time in prison, along with all of Degas' original drawings, to a publisher. Though he remained a wanted man in France, he had returned to the place where he ultimately wished to tell his story. The film, based on the real-life story of Henri Charrière, whose nickname was Papillon, then ended. So, what did you think of the movie? Leave it in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you in the next video.